units. Now, as many of us know, a fundamental reason why Rakuten Symphony has been able to achieve a number of disruptive firsts in telecom is through its wide variety of products and services across 4 distinct business units covering RAN, OSS, cloud, and internet services. In this session, we'll learn a number of things and we'll cover a lot of ground in a short space of time. We'll be hearing from our respective leaders and we'll hear various things, including the ways that Rakuten Symphony is supporting customers across the world deliver Open RAN projects in the next phase, why Rakuten is targeting a telco-grade LLM as part of its major next strategic move, how we are enabling Rakuten Mobile to become a leader in AI through our OSS platforms, and how we are taking our products to customers across industries through our internet services business unit. So, Anil, I'll start off with you. So, over the course of the last year, we saw a significant amount of traction, increased traction indeed, in terms of agreeing Open RAN POCs and deals with operators across a large number of countries in partnership with the Japanese government. Can you talk us through the way that these partnerships are being delivered and why that development is so exciting at this point in time?
First of all, thanks for having us, James. To start out with, yes, we have multiple trials going around different parts of the world. We have trials going around in Asia, India, Middle East, Africa, North America, and as well as Latin. These are funded by the Japan government, and basically this is their way of essentially promoting the technology as well as accelerating the adoption of the RAN. The few other important things I wanted to highlight part of these trial activities is these are all over-the-air trials, and they are a mixed bag of both greenfield as well as brownfield. Fundamentally, from a technology perspective, it's both 5G NSA, 5G SA, as well as it includes massive MIMO-based trials. The other important point I want to make is to essentially all the critical performance KPIs in some of these trials, they are over the air radiating, and we are meeting some of the key performance KPIs that are important from a customer perspective. And we continue to fine-tune the performance. Couple of other important points I want to make is these POCs are essential, and they are precursor to commercial contract and commercial deployments. So our expectation is, as we go through these trial phases, during 2026, we are looking to convert some of these POCs into commercial contracts.
Absolutely, some very exciting developments there, and like you say, lots of doors opening, lots of operators showing an interest in that new operating model. Thank you very much for starting us off, Anil. Partha, over to you. So, since November, I believe, you've been Rakuten Symphony's Chief AI Officer alongside your duties as President of the Cloud Business Unit. Can you talk us through what that role is going to entail and the way that you are going to oversee the development of a new line of products that are AI first as opposed to being AI bolted on?
So first of all, thanks for having me here. And to your question, let me put it this way. So Rakuten is in a unique position to build things centered around things that can be extracted from a network, from data that is temporal in nature, because we run a network ourselves. But in addition to that, we also have our own business units building products that power these networks, whether it is in the OSS domain, RAN domain, cloud domain, and so on. So it's very natural that once you have such kind of a portfolio and a network that can give us this training trace data, it's very natural for us to actually invest heavily in building out AI models that can learn from this. So one of the charters of this new organization is to essentially build a tool or a set of models that will allow us as Rakuten Mobile to leverage this model to improve our network operations, improve efficiency across different domains, whether it is cloud operations or OSS operations and so on. So that's one. But once we build this out, we also want to take this outside to other customers, because the nature of building AI models is that it is not just for one specific use case, or it's not just for one specific network, because AI actually learns patterns, and once you can build those patterns based on our own data, we are very confident that we can take this outside and service other customer use cases also with this model. So this business unit that you mentioned is basically set up to build those kind of models.
Absolutely. Again, very exciting stuff on the horizon. And like you say, it's certainly it's not just adding AI onto what's already there. It's starting from the ground up in some sense to deliver things that really could change the industry potentially.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Thank you very much. Vivek, so over the course of the past year, so Vivek Murthy here, our OSS Business Unit President, thank you very much for joining us. So over the last year, we've seen some transformational results from the OSS BU's product line, Site Manager in particular. Can you talk us through some of the latest updates you've made to Site Manager in particular, and maybe some of the ways that AI has been integrated into that, and some of the results that's delivering for operators today?
Yeah. So again, thank you very much for having me here. So it's been a year actually since I joined. In fact, the first week of my joining, I was here. And it's been a very, very busy year for us in terms of the things that we have done with site management and Site Manager as a product. In fact, actually it starts with the use cases, right? And the way our customers use this product. And there's been a relentless focus on trying to improve the way they use the product to solve their own business problems. That's the world in which we live in OSS. It's not a tool for itself, but it's about how the customers use it to drive their own productivity, improvements in their own business processes and so on. And Site Manager has been right at the heart of how they plan and build and roll out their networks at pace with very little errors. It's been a huge amount of work done. One of the things the last 1 year has been a lot of focus has been in AI, as you mentioned. The way we actually use AI to find patterns. It's not deep learning, and let's connect later on what Partha said, because we got to build on, very carefully use these terms which are going around. But there's a lot of data that is collected, and what happens is, by giving things like AI assistants, right, which use LLM to do NLP-based things, we can actually help our users to use this product in a lot more productive way. So they can actually ask, what are these sites today which are going to actually not be built because the deadline is today. And so you start to do a lot more better AI-driven jeopardy management on deadlines. So you start to reduce the failure rates. You also start to use it for better, documentation-related productivity things, using AI. Again, you can upload a lot of documentation automatically using AI, using OCRs and so on, reduces the errors, improves the speed at which people do their jobs. So there's lots of use cases like that which are actually helping our users do things a lot smarter, a lot better. And the last thing in all this is, the way once you do it on the desk-based thing, ultimately a lot of jobs then are delivered to the field. So we have done a lot of work in the last 1 year in the field force management side to get those jobs, get automatic AI-driven audits so that they can get the certifications without humans having to do things. So, for example, real-time edge compute, send the picture, and then it comes back real-time to say, yeah, it's all done properly. You've put the right things in place, screwed it in the right way, put the right tapes. You can consider the job done. So these are the kind of things which in the past were very, very human-driven and prone to errors and so on. You can do those things. So lots of such things. The last thing, which has been the most exciting thing, which happened about 3 months ago, is we decided to take site management into a completely different world, which is on the enterprise side. So we recognize that ultimately this is about infrastructure play, and therefore we can do this equally well for tower cores and data centers. And therefore we then released a new product which is basically SaaS-based. So it's in the AWS marketplace, and it allows basically, firstly, very, very frictionless in the way our customers can now take this product. They don't need to provision a lot of infra and so on. Just get on with it on a SaaS offering and start to roll out and then, if they like the product, they can then expand and so on. So we are starting to now go big on the SaaS journey as well. So I mean, final thing in all this is we won lots of awards last year. I mean, I'm incredibly proud of the team that we have got. We won 6 awards, and I'm really proud to say in the 2026, the MWC, the Global Award, we have been shortlisted there as well. So let's see what happens tomorrow. But it's just a, great kind of proof of the fact that, we are quite world-class there, and our customers are using our products at scale, and hopefully we are going in the right direction in that way.
Absolutely. It's a product line that's already deployed, helped to deploy millions of sites. It's delivering transformational, time-slashing outcomes for operators internationally. So yeah, absolutely very exciting times for the OSS business unit. Thank you very much, Vivek. Ryan, so as we all know, the Internet Services business unit has a very diverse product line from CPaaS to Rakuten Maritime and Neo. Again, you target a lot of different verticals with that portfolio. Can you tell us about some of the areas you're most excited about for 2026 and some of the industries you're really focusing on this year?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me and having us here today. And it's been a year. It's always great to be here. And in 2026, the areas or vertical we're going to focus in this year is absolutely maritime industry. Right? If you think about it, more than 90% of the global trade, they moves across the ocean, but the cybersecurity that protects it still is regarded as something to deal with later, or they run off of land-based cybersecurity systems, which the way I see it, this is one of the biggest digital blind spots. And ships and vessels these days, they are no longer just steels and engines. They run off of computer-based systems, and they're connected to the network, and meaning it can be hacked and it can be compromised, right? I mean, if you think about it, let's say our smartphone is hacked, right? It's going to, significantly impact your personal life. But imagine a large cruise ship or a large tanker in the middle of the ocean is hacked and compromised. It's going to significantly impact the global economy, global trade, and it will eventually demand people's lives. And in fact, the number of cyber attacks against the ports and vessels in 2025 was more than doubled compared to 2024. So, under the circumstances, when we are running Rakuten cybersecurity software for vessels called Rakuten Maritime, we were convinced that this is high time that we actually focus on this and make changes and differences in the market. So we're going to focus on maritime industry this year.
And a lot of potential there, particularly, again, given, I suppose, Japan's heritage as a shipbuilder.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So, Anil, just going back to you in terms of back to Open RAN, back to where we started. Certainly in the last few months, 1&1 and Rakuten Mobile stand out as the world's 2 biggest Open RAN projects. Some very exciting milestones there in terms of 1&1 migrating all its subscribers to its mobile network, Rakuten Mobile hitting the 10 million subscriber milestone. Again, you've mentioned some of the Open RAN POCs and projects that we're working on, but do you think it's only a matter of time before traction increases more broadly with Open RAN, and are they encouraging signs of what's to come?
Absolutely, James. One of the key things that we have seen as a difference is between the industry and the government collaboration, there is a drive effort right now to accelerate the adoption of the O-RAN technologies. In 2025, in the 2 commercial networks that, as you pointed out, we achieved significant capacity enhancements. Our plan, we have a different set of targets for 2026 that would essentially, hopefully, accelerate the adoption over the next 2-3 years in terms of the O-RAN technology itself. One of them is gearing ourselves up for the infrastructure enhancements or revolution, if you want to call it that way, so that we are ready for advanced 5G and 6G over the next 2-3 years' time. And also increasing the capacity. Those are one of the key goals of Chairman Mickey in terms of increasing the current capacity from where it is at to doubling it over the next 5 years. The second key thing I want to highlight is to essentially make sure we continue on the path that we are on in terms of developing the radio ecosystem. We basically onboarded multiple radio vendors across about 15 to 20 different radio bands, And that is one of the keys in terms of making sure we have a comparable or a reduced capex and opex approach in terms of how we're going to be providing the solution. The other most important area for 2026 and beyond, there's a lot that's going on with respect to AI in the RAN, AI for RAN. Partha touched on it a little bit. Just to point out, in 2026, we are being very surgical in terms of identifying what are some of the specific use cases that directly contribute to the network performance and user experience without increasing the cost. And I think that would be sort of the stepping stone in terms of what we need to achieve in 2026 and beyond. Some of these AI-driven use cases, we already have them in the prototype phase. Our plan is to start commercializing that starting 2027.
Thank you very much. Ties in quite nicely to my next question, actually. Vivek, just over to you, actually, for 1 second. So Rakuten was recently named as an AI leader by Gartner. So validated research that has come out and said we are arguably the telco to beat in that respect. How is the OSS business unit, and indeed, I suppose, touching upon what Anil mentioned there, how are our own development of AI models and our use of AI helping to support that and, I suppose, create that milestone that we've reached?
Yeah, so I think OSS, as you know, is all about use cases, right, that create value for a customer. So AI is to be seen in the context in that as a means to an end, not the end itself. And there's some hard challenges in the whole world of OSS that we have been dealing with, talking to customers, our own RMI, one-on-one, and many other customers. I think the way to look at all this is, the first thing is, AI assistant as a way to make the lives of our users of our tools better. Okay, call it chatbot sort of interface, co-pilot, so people can use natural languages to express and ask, and then get a bit of advisory as well. That's the first level of AI that we are trying to embed, because that's basically the way our customers expect, our users of our tools expect our products to be used. They need that AI interface on the top to be able to do chatting and interfacing. The second level of AI, the way I look, so the first level is what we call like the human in the loop, right? He's there checking every part of the way and so on. The second one is what I call the human on the loop. And by the way, this is something I heard somewhere, and I think I try to use this as an analogy to talk about how much the humans are involved in this thing. So the human on the loop is the next stage of the evolution, where they're kind of sitting on the loop or on the fence and letting AI do a lot of the jobs. When you talk about root cause analysis, for example, anomaly detection, today the users of our OSS tools are doing a lot of work to get to that root cause, get to that kind of thing. And being able to do a lot of that through autonomous means, is kind of the next level. And that's by introducing agentic solutions. Okay, so we have a product called Agent Studio as part of the OSS that's wrapped in, and that can be used by basically our customers or ourselves working in partnership with our customers to build agents. Firstly, lower order agents, which automate and become autonomous parts of the journey. And then you can slowly evolve into higher order agents, which are doing a lot more things, handing off from one agent to another. Because remember, right, all this is an evolution. It's not a revolution where you can overnight switch on. People want to trust our systems and the OSS tools that we are building. So that's the next level of it. And through the Agent Studio, we are hoping that our customers will build do more autonomous work. And that's the way to go to autonomous level 4, as well as we have seen Rakuten's announcement with energy saving. It's using those kind of agentic solutions. The final thing is where I think, and Partha will step in, is actually where we start to do deep learning, patterns and stuff. And I'm not going to go into that, but that's when you start to really harness all this data to be actually truly do predictions of the kinds that regular AI, machine learning cannot do. And that's when you start to reimagine, processes. I won't, let Partha double click on all that stuff, but I think the idea from an OSS perspective is that once you get to do that sort of really high-end AI, you start to reimagine processes. And that's where the ultimate value will come to customers. And hopefully, this is a 3-year journey, in my opinion. We'll have to take these baby steps to go into human in the loop to human on the loop to completely reimagining processes. And we are going to, traverse that journey in that structured way.
Baby steps indeed. I suppose one thing it does actually relate to, though, it's quite a timely use of the, or just a reminder, I suppose, that Rakuten Mobile did, of course, reach level 4 autonomy very recently and ran energy efficiency, a world first, as that was announced, I believe, about 10 days ago. So, again, making strides in that sense, nonetheless, I think. But I will move on to Partha now, as you've mentioned there, Vivek. So, one thing that's very exciting, I suppose, is something you've mentioned, is the concept of a telco-grade LLM, something that is certainly part of our strategy, something we're looking to develop. What does that look like? And I suppose to add to that as well, you've also said that something you could envisage is a model whereby the model understands an organization's properties, its data, its history, its decision-making, etc. Maybe you could talk us through those two concepts and how we can get there, I suppose.
So when people talk about an LLM model, the first thing that comes to mind is something where you can naturally converse with a machine, right? You essentially ask it a question in human language and it answers that question back. But actually a large language model, starting 2025 onwards, I think it's just more than that. So a large language model, of course, takes text as an input, but then it also actually has built, in the modern day LLM, it has also built reasoning traces within it. And that is important because what's happening is that the usage of just ask a question and get a response back, I think people find it very limiting. It was the first wave of applications are built that way. The new class of applications people are building are more what we call as agentic. It's a very overloaded term. But agentic essentially means what? It essentially means that there is a logic flow that a human would normally take in order to answer a question or try to make a decision. Now that trace, where does a trace sit in this new world? Does it sit inside the model or does it sit outside the model? Now that question actually has not been fully answered, by the way, in the industry. So there are two camps. In the first camp, what people are doing is they're trying to train the model to understand the domain much better using what they call as reasoning traces. And a reasoning trace is, okay, let's say an event has happened in a network in one site. Now that has a cascading effect on multiple other things. And by the way, the nature of that event basically causes certain metrics to spike. If a human were to be exposed to this, they will essentially look at all of this holistically, and then they will say, I'm going to take a look at this. Based on the output of this, I'm going to take an action here, and an action there, and so on. That's a trace.
Yeah.
Now, if you can teach a model that is a trace that yields a certain result, and you give it enough such data, then it can actually build that reasoning capabilities within itself. Correct? So that's one way of making a telco-grade LLM. But then, sometimes you would say that all that is great, but it is all probabilistic. You can never guarantee or you can never verify that the trace that an LLM is taking is actually correct. So now you have an agentic intelligence that's built outside, where you have to have verifiable truths, right? That you can essentially consult or verify your results against, which is what comes from the system of records that are built by products like our OSS suite or the cloud suite and all that. So what we are trying to build, coming back to your question, is when we say a telco-grade LLM, it's basically a combination of a large language model that has been trained to build this telco-grade traces, again, leveraging our own network, leveraging our own products to build that, and also this intelligence that allows us to create a verifiable layer outside of the model. And a combination of these two is where we'll be able to create this distinct the value, which is very different from a traditional LLM, which is bolted on with some kind of context engineering or prompt engineering outside. And there are a lot of other things also, right? I mean, language is just one thing, but there are also in a network, you have essentially a network of different things, which means that is better served with things like a graph neural network or what they call as graph attention transformers. So we are essentially combining all of those technologies together to power, the next wave of our innovation in Rakuten Mobile and Symphony.
Thank you very much, Partha. A lot of food for thought there. I'll have to go and rewatch, I think, everything you said. Make sure I can digest all of that. Ryan, back to you then. So I think something just to link back to what the ISBU is doing. I think something that certainly excites a lot of us is ways that the Rakuten Group could use some of the internet services products. What opportunities do you see there, and kind of what's next in that regard for the ways that those services can be used inside the Rakuten ecosystem?
Right. So in fact, ISBU for the last several years we have been contributing to expanding the Rakuten ecosystem services. For example, Rakuten Link. So to be more precise, what we do is we build products that have the potential to become a flagship or a core product of the Rakuten ecosystem services. For example, we have Rakuten Link, right? Rakuten Link is a communication application for most is a default communication app for most Rakuten mobile subscribers in Japan. What they do from the application is they can make calls, they receive and send SMS messages, they do shopping, they use Rakuten mobile points. They can pretty much do anything they want to do with in Rakuten ecosystem services in just one application. So we inherited this team 4 years ago, and we started building core features. We stabilized the product, we optimized the team size, and after 3 years, we were convinced that okay, now the team and the product is stabilized and it is ready to be transferred to Rakuten Mobile so that they can better serve Rakuten Mobile subscribers. Another example is Rakuten Browser. There's a browser we built. It took a similar path. We inherited the team. We built the core products, core features, stabilized the product, and then hand it over to Rakuten Group. Also, Rakuten Email. ISBU built the product ground up. We stabilized the service team and built the core features and hand it over to Rakuten Mobile. Lastly, but not the least, we have Rakuten Drive. Right? It's a cloud storage service that ISBU built out of scratch, ground up. We acquired millions of users, and we stabilized the team, features, and services. And we have started providing Rakuten Drive to Rakuten Mobile subscribers as their default cloud storage from since early 2025. It was really well received by them. And what's really interesting about this is Rakuten Mobile subscribers who use Rakuten Drive, their churn rate is less than half of those who don't use Rakuten Drive. That's a significant measurable impact. So we were convinced that, okay, now the team, the service, everything is ready to be moved to Rakuten Mobile so that they can better serve the subscribers there. So this is exactly what we have been doing, ISBU has been doing consistently over the past more than 4 years and still doing, right? So yeah, this is how we have contributed to the expansion of Rakuten ecosystem.
Thank you very much. I think that more or less brings us to time for this panel discussion. Thank you all very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure discussing what your respective business units are doing. Again, 4 very diverse units that, when used in combination, are achieving outstanding outcomes in various mobile network operators. A big round of applause, please, for our business unit presidents for Rakuten Symphony. Thank you all very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.